All right, team, let's get into it. We're going to treat this like a deployment review for your very first Active Directory domain services installation. We're going to walk through the whole thing, from the basic ideas to the final checks, so you're totally prepped for any practical exam. So, you ready to do this? Ready to build the absolute backbone of a Windows network? This is one of those foundational skills, so, getting it right is just crucial. Let's dive right in. We're going to tackle this in 5 logical steps. Think of it like this: plan, prep, build, and proof. First, we'll plan by understanding the core concepts. Then, we'll prep the server with some really essential checks. After that, we build it, installing the role and promoting the server. And finally, the proof. We'll verify everything is working exactly like it should. First things first, the blueprint. Before you click a single button, you have to understand the hierarchy of this thing. This is the foundational knowledge you need for any kind of successful deployment. It all starts with the forest. You can think of this as the absolute boundary, the giant container for your entire Active Directory structure. Everything, every user, every computer, every single object is going to live inside one single forest. Now, inside that forest, you have domains. A domain is your main administrative and security boundary. It's where you'll set your security policies, and honestly, for most companies, a single domain inside their forest is all they're ever going to need. So what does all the actual work? Well, that's the domain controller, or DC for short. This is the server, could be physical, could be virtual, that's running the Active Directory role. It holds that directory database. It's like the master phone book for the entire network, and its main job is to authenticate every single user trying to log in. So, just to put it all together real quick, a forest contains domains, and each domain is run by one or more domain controllers. If you get this hierarchy, the rest of the process is going to make a whole lot more sense. Okay, now for the prep phase. You know the saying, measure twice, cut once? It is absolutely critical here. These little pre-flight checks will prevent the most common, most frustrating installation failures that I see all the time in student labs. So before you even think about opening that Add Roles and Features wizard, you've got to do these 3 things. 1, assign a static IP. 2, make sure you've got good network connectivity. Can you ping things? And 3, give your server a clean descriptive name. Something simple like DC-01 is perfect. Let me be crystal clear on that first point. A static IP address is completely non-negotiable. Seriously, if your domain controller's IP address changes because it's getting it from DHCP, authentication will break, services will fail, and your entire network is going to grind to a halt. This is the #1 mistake people make. Don't be that person. Okay, our server is prepped and ready. We can finally start the build. Now, this first step is super simple. We're just getting the Active Directory software, the binaries, copied onto the server using Server Manager. You're just going to run through the Add Roles and Features wizard. The most important part here is to check the box for Active Directory domain services. A pop-up with ask to add some required features, just say yes. Now, at the end of this, the software is installed, and this is a big but, it is not configured. Your server is not a domain controller yet. And here it is. This is the main event. After you install the role, you have to promote the server. This is the actual process that configures Active Directory and creates your brand new domain. So if you look back in Server Manager, you'll see a little yellow notification flag up top. Click on that, and you'll get the option to start the promotion wizard. This is where you're going to make all the big decisions about your new Active Directory environment. All right, now we've come to the most important choice you're going to make in this whole process. Are you building the very first DC for a brand new network? If you are, you'll choose Add a New Forest and come up with your root domain name. Or are you adding a second DC to a network that already exists, maybe for redundancy? Then you'll choose Add a Domain Controller to an existing domain and give it some admin credentials. Getting this right is absolutely fundamental. Now, during this promotion, it's going to ask you to set a DSRM password. That stands for Directory Services Restore Mode. This is not your domain admin password. This is your break glass in case of emergency password. It's what you'll use for disaster recovery if Active Directory just completely fails to start. So I can't stress this enough. You have to remember this password. Write it down and store it somewhere safe. Okay, the server is rebooted. So are we done? Not quite. In our world, we always trust, but verify. The final phase is to prove that your new domain controller is healthy, happy, and fully functional on the network. Here is your immediate post-reboot checklist. First things first, can you even log in using domain credentials, like Contoso/administrator? That's a great sign. Next, open up the Active Directory Users and Computers tool. Do you see your domain name in there? And finally, we have to check that DNS is working, because without DNS, Active Directory is totally useless. It's like having a list of contacts with no phone book to look them up in. And our primary tool for this job is nslookup. It's a little command line utility that lets us talk directly to DNS servers and see if all the critical records that Active Directory needs have been created correctly. Once you're in nslookup, you're just going to run 2 commands. First, type set type equals to serve, because we're looking for service records. Then, you're going to query for the specific LDAP record. That's how clients find Active Directory to authenticate, so this check is how we make sure they can find our new domain controller.
And what are we looking for? A successful response. If that command spits back the name and IP address of your new DC, you did it. That's the proof. It means your DC is online, it's correctly registered itself in DNS, and it's discoverable by other computers on the network. That, right there, is a successful deployment.
So your first domain controller is online, it's authenticated, and it's verified. Congratulations! But, the work is really just getting started. So what's the next logical step? Do you immediately build a second DC for redundancy so you don't have a single point of failure? Or do you start designing your organizational unit structure to manage users and computers? Well, that's the next big question you're going to have to answer.